Hey, I'm going to get started this morning by welcoming everyone. Welcome to Wat Tung. Nice to see everyone here. Welcome to everyone who's joining online as well. Today is our group learning program where each Sunday and Wednesday I get together with students, helping them to understand the path to enlightenment. We have other programs and courses and things like that, but what this program is designed for is to really help people build a very strong foundation in the path to enlightenment, as the Buddha taught. What enlightenment is where the mind's been trained to the point where it's completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. By the time you get to enlightenment, you don't experience any discontent feelings. You will have eliminated all the anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All of that can be eliminated from the mind by training the mind. So we start each one of our classes with meditation, and then afterwards I usually will teach a certain topic. Like on Sundays, I go chapter by chapter in this book, helping students to be able to understand the path to enlightenment. On Wednesdays, what I typically do is do meditation with you guys, and then I just basically share a little bit of the teachings of the Buddha, and then just open up to whatever questions you guys might have. So that's our plan for today. If you guys would like to join for meditation, the way that I start this is with some chanting in order to ease into the meditation. This actually helps you to get more benefit out of the meditation if you decide to chant along. During the lifetime of the Buddha, he used chanting as a way to help his students to commit the teachings to memory. Every 2 weeks, his students would come together and they would recite his teachings orally. And he used it as a learning tool or as a learning device, where today, oftentimes people think it's a rite, ritual, ceremony, worship, or prayer, or something like that. But that's not true. That's not the way that the Buddha used it. He used it as a learning tool, as a learning device, where we don't need to chant anymore in order to be able to learn the teachings. We have books, audiobooks, videos, podcasts, things like this to be able to help us study the teachings. But 2,500 years ago, they didn't have that. So that's why they use chanting. If you would like to chant along, you'll see that it actually helps your mind to get more benefit out of the meditation. The chanting sheets are over there on the cabinet. You're welcome to help yourself at any point. You can go get a chanting sheet and help yourself to that. Those of you guys online, you'll find this on our website at buddhadailywisdom.com. Just click on free books. And if you scroll down about halfway down the page, you'll see it there. If you end up getting one of these chanting sheets and you read the English translations, you're going to see a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for the Buddha. And because of that, I don't think the Buddha even created these chants himself, because the Buddha wouldn't have walked around and said, "Here, chant these chants to me out of respect for me." This would be ego or arrogance if someone chose to do this. By the time you've gotten to enlightenment, you don't have that in your mind anymore. But if you learn from a teacher how to move from anger, sadness, and frustration, all these other discontent feelings, to the peace and joy that is enlightenment, and this teacher didn't want anything or expect anything from you, they were just helping you out of the kindness of their heart, you'd probably have a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for that person too. So that's why I think these chants actually came from his students, because the Buddha wouldn't have walked around and taught people to chant to him, but his students would have had an enormous amount of respect and appreciation for what he was doing. So you're welcome to chant along if you like. You'll see that it'll help you during the meditation. Once we're in the meditation, I'm going to be providing you some guidance where I'm essentially going to be teaching you and instructing you how to meditate while we're actually meditating together. Then there's going to be a period of time of quietness where we're all meditating. Here at the temple, and anybody joining online will just all be meditating at the same time. Now, during this period of time of quietness, I'm sure you're going to hear occasional sounds. You might hear a car going by, a dog barking, a bird chirping, someone here might cough or sneeze. This is all normal. If you're in meditation, craving permanent silence, and you're wanting it to be permanently silent, you'll be happy if you get that, but you'll be sad and frustrated or annoyed if you don't get that. That's the mind itself that's causing that. It's not the outside world that's causing that, because the world is impermanent. Everything is constantly changing. Sounds are going to arise, they're going to change, they're going to fade away. You're not going to be able to be in an environment where it's permanently quiet. So if you understand that the world is impermanent, and that's the way the world functions, that things are constantly changing, when you hear a sound during meditation, you can be at ease. You can rest and be peaceful because you know this is the way the world works, that nothing quote unquote wrong is happening here, that this is normal, that these sounds are going to arise, they're going to change, and they're going to fade away. So you're not going to be able to be in an environment where it's permanently quiet when you meditate, because of the world is impermanent. So after the period of time of quietness, we're going to come out of that with some more chanting. And then that's where I'll start today's class. I'll just share a little bit of the teachings of the Buddha with you, and then mainly open up to whatever questions you guys have related to the teachings of the Buddha, any challenges that you're having in your personal life, anything that you're seeing in the world that you would like to ask questions about. You can ask anything and everything you like, and we'll have a nice discussion about these types of things. In terms of your body position for meditation, there's 4 positions that the Buddha taught: seated, lying, standing, and walking. And you would learn these different positions at different times as part of your journey to enlightenment. It's kind of like assembling a tool belt and then using whatever tool you need at any given time to help you with meditation. So there's various courses and retreats to be able to help you to learn these. But oftentimes people are starting out in the seated position. So I'll just give you guys a little bit of guidance on the seated position to really help you get started with this. And then you can learn these other positions at other times. So the seated position is one that a lot of people use frequently, because you can either be sitting on the floor, in a chair. If someone's at home, they might be on a bench or a sofa or a wheelchair. You can really sit however you like. There's not one fixed way to actually sit. What I'm going to share with you are suggestions or recommendations that you can consider, but you can also come up with something on your own too, because there's not just one way to sit. If there was just one way to sit, that would be permanence. And we don't live in that world. We live in an impermanent world where everybody has different type of body and people are going to find different things to be comfortable. So what's important is that the body's comfortable, not painful and not luxurious, but in the middle where it's comfortable, because then you'll be able to train your mind. So if you're sitting on the floor, you might have some cushions under your rear. This will help soften your seat a bit. And if you're going to bring your legs together in the cross leg position, you might just choose to do that lightly. Whereas if they're real tight, this can impede the circulation and cause pain in the lower body. Some people like to put their legs off the mat. This gets their hips up in the air, and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles, allowing the circulation to flow. The Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. If this is comfortable for you, you could use it, but it's not about everybody doing it exactly the same way. There's other options here. Some people like to put their palms on their thighs or their knees. Some people put their palms up. Some people rest their hands comfortably in their lap. So you can put your hands and arms wherever you like. The same thing's true for anybody sitting in a chair, that you could sit however you like too. Maybe you're at home on a bench or a sofa in a wheelchair. Some people like to put their feet flat on the floor or lightly crossed at the ankles, but you can see me sitting in a chair here with my legs crossed. So this is an option for you too. And then you can put your hands and arms wherever you like. It's helpful if your upper body is erect, with the sternum up and the shoulders back. It'll help keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation. What meditation is a dedicated, active, purposeful training session where you're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities from the mind and you're cultivating certain wholesome qualities in the mind. So you'd like the mind to be attentive and alert during the meditation. And having the sternum up and shoulders back will help you to do that. Whereas if you were slouched like this, the mind would have a tendency to be dull or lethargic. But if you're real rigid, the mind could be overactive or uptight. So you'd like the upper body to be in the middle with the sternum up and the shoulders back, because not only will the mind be attentive and alert, but it'll be easy for you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. So again, I'm going to get started with the chanting. You guys are welcome to join in. Then I'll come back in with the guidance afterwards. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakawa Wat Tung Mahakawanhang Apiwateyami Sawakato Mahakawata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakavato Sawaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa นะโมอะระสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมอะระสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสเอมะเกวาอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสกขาโตโรกาวิตูอนุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังโอโตภาควาติ Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here, you're just looking to establish the breath, a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath, not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then, whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. with the mind fixated on the breath. Whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธมหาเกวาโอตังมหาเกวันนังอภิวาเตมิ สวากขาโตมหาเกวตาตัมโมดามังนามาสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาเกวโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหาเกวาอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสกาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังโหโตภาควาติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, good morning to all of you guys. Nice to see everyone here. Good morning to everyone who's joining online as well. This is called Breathing Mindfulness Meditation. This is one of the primary forms of meditation that the Buddha used in order to train his mind to get to enlightenment. But there's much more than just meditation that you would need in order to be able to get to enlightenment. You wouldn't be able to just meditate your way to enlightenment. One of the biggest myths about the life story of the Buddha is people think that he sat under a tree, he meditated, and then instantly got to enlightenment. This isn't actually true. It took him 6 years to be able to get to enlightenment. It was gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress that led to his enlightenment. So you're going to need meditation to get to enlightenment. You wouldn't be able to get to enlightenment without meditation, but there's other things that you need too besides just meditation. What enlightenment is and where the mind is been trained to get to the point where you're experiencing the mental state where it's completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. By the time you get to enlightenment, you don't experience any discontent feelings. There's no anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All of this can be eliminated from the mind. Oftentimes people think it's the outside world that's causing them to experience certain feelings, but this isn't actually true. It's coming from your own mind. The mind is craving permanence, wanting things to be a certain way. And the unenlightened mind can only be happy when it gets what it wants or what it expects. But then when things change, the mind experiences painful feelings like anger, sadness, frustration, or others. If the mind doesn't get what it wants, it experiences anger and frustration. But by the time you get to enlightenment, you've eliminated all that the mind doesn't do that anymore. You've retrained it. So not only do you eliminate all those discontent feelings, but the mind will be completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. You'll experience focus, concentration, clarity, and deep memory. You'll notice that your personal, professional relationships are really blossoming, because in the unenlightened state, you'll have certain difficulties and struggles in certain relationships, maybe with your parents or your siblings, your life partner, your children, people like this. You'll be really challenged in those relationships because your mind is holding on and you're craving permanence, wanting this person to be a certain way. And the mind can only be happy if it gets what it wants and what it expects. But the thing is that you live in an impermanent world. Things are constantly changing. So for example, if you wake up in the morning and you see it's sunny outside and you get really happy and really excited about that, well, that happiness is not permanent, because that means when the sun is gone, when it's raining, you'll be sad or frustrated. Or if you get really happy when your bank account balance is up here, well, when it goes down here, you'll be sad or frustrated. The only thing that's happened here is change. That's all that's happened, is things have changed. But the mind is holding on and craving permanence. This is why when you got together with a boyfriend or girlfriend, when you guys first got together, you were very happy, very excited about that. But then over time, the relationship deteriorated. And when you guys broke up, you might have been sad or angry or frustrated, or you might have been lonely or bored or missing this person. This wasn't your love that was causing this. This was the mind holding on and craving permanence. And the mind could only be happy when it gets what it wants, which is this person to be in your life. That's what the mind wants. It's craving that permanence. But this relationship was always impermanent, ever since the very beginning. Even if you guys were together for the rest of your life, you guys would have died at some point, and now you guys' relationship is over. So if the mind's holding on and craving permanence, that's what it does in the unenlightened state, because it doesn't understand the world is impermanent. Everything around you is constantly changing. You're not going to experience a situation where everybody does things this way. But that's the way the mind works, is it wants everybody to do things this way. And you can only be happy if people do things that way. And if they do things this way, the mind will be angry or sad or frustrated. So you can change all of this. And this meditation is part of that. The goal of this meditation isn't to eliminate your thoughts. That's not what the goal of this meditation is. Sometimes that's what people think. So if you had a bunch of thoughts during your meditation where it was like thought, that's completely normal. Or maybe you had a thought and you indulged in it, you followed it, you looked at it, you played with it. You were maybe 2 or 3 minutes down the road and you're like, oh yeah, that's right, I'm meditating. And you brought your mind back to your breath. This is all completely normal. You're going to have thoughts during meditation. Your goal here is to notice your thoughts sooner and sooner and cut them off and let them go easier and easier. Even an enlightened being has thoughts during meditation. But the difference is that they have a thought, they notice it right away, and they cut it off and let it go and come right back to the breath. And then there's quietness and stillness between their thoughts. So it's like a thought. And then they cut it off and let it go. And now there's quietness and stillness in their mind. And then maybe 30 seconds or a minute down the road, there's a thought. And then they cut it off and let it go, right? So you're going to have thoughts. You need thoughts. So what you're doing here is you're training your mind to let go. Because with that craving, desire, attachment in the mind, where the mind's longing, yearning, and craving permanence, it's holding on. It doesn't know how to let go. But when you let go, that's where your peace and your joy is. That's why after you broke up with that boyfriend or girlfriend, after a certain period of time, whether it was 2 months, 2 weeks, 2 years, whatever it was, at some point your mind let go. And that's where your peace came back. Where initially you were angry and frustrated, or you were lonely or bored or missing this person. But at some point your mind let go. And that's where your peace and your joy came back. You were like, you know what? If he wants to be with someone else, so be it. And you let go. Or if she wants to live in a different part of the world, okay, so be it. And you let go. And that's where your peace and your joy came back. But the mind doesn't know how to let go. So that's why the Buddha teaches you this meditation and other things as well, to train your mind to let go, so that you're not trying to force people and control people to do certain things. Because when your anger and frustration is arising in the unenlightened state, you'll firmly believe it's coming from other people. I'm sure you've been in knockdown, drag-out arguments where you've been trying to convince people to stop doing what they're doing, or else you're going to continue to get angry. But it's not them that's causing you to be angry. But that's what the mind firmly believes in the unenlightened state. So what you might have been doing is you might be pushing people away out of your life. This is called aversion, where you're pushing away a person or a situation, thinking that that's going to solve your problems. But you can see that that didn't solve your problem, because you still get angry. You still get frustrated. If that person was the true cause of your problem, when you push them out of your life, you'd be peaceful and joyful from that point forward. Or the second thing you'll do is you'll tend to be bitter and harsh and hostile with people through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. It's almost like an animal growling and roaring at another animal, trying to convince it to do things your way, trying to fear it into doing things your way. Or the third thing you'll tend to do when you don't realize that it's your own mind causing these feelings is you'll tend to put your expectations on people and try to pressure them to do things a certain way. So as long as you're doing this, you can't live harmoniously with all beings, because it's only a matter of time before you encounter someone who does things differently than you. Because there's only one person in the world that actually does things your way 100% of the time. Do you know who this person is that does things your way 100% of the time? Yourself, right? You're the only one. So everybody else in the world does things differently than you. So if you can only have happiness and peace when you're around people who do things your way, it's not going to happen. You're the only person who does things your way 100% of the time. And your way may be the right way for you, but it's not the right way for everybody. But your ego is going to tell you, my way is the right way and everyone else's is the wrong way, right? And now you want everybody to do it your way. So you can wake up, or you can cultivate wisdom to the point where you understand that this isn't possible for everybody to do things your way. And you can train your mind to let go. So this meditation, what you're doing is you're cutting off anything and everything that's coming up. Whenever you have a thought during meditation, you cut it off. Doesn't matter if it's wholesome or unwholesome. You don't look at it. You don't label it. You don't think about it. You don't try to figure out where it's coming from. You just cut it off and come back to the breath. This builds an internal mechanism in your mind to be able to cut off and let go. So that now in your day-to-day life, when you're noticing something unwholesome coming up, you can cut it off and let go. Say you're checking in at an airport and your flight's you thought is leaving in about an hour, but you go to check in and give him your bags and the person behind the ticket counter says, "Oh, I'm so sorry, ma'am. I'm sorry, sir. You can't check in yet. Your flight's not leaving for 3 hours," right? And you start noticing anger coming up. Well, that's being caused by your own mind. You're craving permanence. You want every single airplane to take off at the same on the scheduled time, where this isn't possible. If you travel enough, there's going to be maintenance issues, weather issues, crew issues. You're going to meet with a delay at some point. So if you're noticing the anger coming up, you can actually cut that off and let it go. Don't allow your mind to experience that. You're not suppressing your feelings or repressing your feelings. You actually cut it off and let it go before it becomes a feeling. You cut it off and let it go at the bodily sensations. And if you do this enough, along with all the other teachings that the Buddha shares with you, you will never experience anger anymore. It just never arises. It doesn't come up because the causes and conditions that produce it have been eliminated out of the mind. So in this meditation, you cut off everything and anything that's coming up because you're exercising your mind. You're building that internal mechanism to cut off and let go. But in your day-to-day life, you only cut off the unwholesome thoughts. If you're thinking about taking your mom out to breakfast or lunch and you'd like to give her a call and invite her out to breakfast, you don't need to cut that off in day-to-day life. If it comes up in your meditation, cut it off. But in day-to-day life, if it comes up, hey, maybe you give her a call. Hey, Mom, what are you doing tomorrow? I'd like to take you out for breakfast, right? No harm in doing that. But if you're at work and you're thinking about punching your boss in the face, cut that off, right? You're not interested in doing that because that's going to produce all kinds of unwholesome results for you. That's an unwholesome thought. Cut that off. Right? So don't allow your mind to think that way because then you might act upon it. And if you do this enough where you're cutting off these unwholesome thoughts, eventually you won't have them. But you need more than just this meditation. The Buddha taught an entire path to enlightenment. It's called the Eightfold Path. And I'm actually teaching this right now as part of our group learning program where it's 8 individual factors and you learn each one of these and you implement it into your life. One of the way you might think about it is like a speaker system. If you had a speaker system and you were trying to get a better and better quality sound out of the speakers, you would dial in these 8 dials closer and closer, tweaking these dials to get a better and better quality sound out of the speakers. Well, your mind is the same way. If you tweak these 8 dials and you bring these closer and closer into your life, you're going to see that the condition of your mind in your life significantly improve, getting to the point ultimately, if you train close enough, where you no longer experience any discontent feelings. Your mind's focused, you have concentration, clarity, and deep memory, and all your relationships are harmonious. This is something that you have the capability to do. You can move to this higher consciousness. So the Buddha's teachings aren't beliefs. You're not believing a bunch of things and then hoping something good happens when you die. That's not what he taught you. He's teaching you to do this inner work, this inner growth, this inner development now in this life to get to a wonderful life now in this life. He didn't teach you rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, and prayer. He didn't teach you rules and commandments. He's teaching you how to do this inner work, this inner growth to clean up your mind. Because just like we learned how to clean the body when we were growing up as a child, and we now understand that was an important thing to do, and we do that every day, you need to learn how to clean your mind. That's not something that we learned growing up as a child. Here in Thailand, that's what they learn. That's one of the reasons why they're so peaceful and so joyful. That's why it's called the land of smiles, because it's very easy to smile when you don't have pollution in the mind and you've cleaned up your mind. But if you walked around and you didn't clean this body for several days, weeks, months, or years, you'd be pretty uncomfortable walking around in this body. Well, that's what you're doing with the mind. If you're not cleaning up the mind, you're walking around with this mind that hasn't been cleaned up. And of course you experience stress. Of course you experience anxiety. Of course you experience frustration and agitation and annoyance and all these other things because the mind hasn't been cleaned up. It's just like if you walked around with this body and you hadn't cleaned it, you'd be pretty uncomfortable doing that if you hadn't cleaned it for an extended period of time. So the Buddha is providing you a path of how to understand your mind, how to understand the world around you, and how to clean up your mind so that you can navigate this world peacefully, getting to peace and joy, and creating a wonderful life for yourself. His teachings are based in learning, investigating, and examining his teachings intellectually to understand them. But then you need to reflect on those teachings to verify whether they're true or they're false. And then you need to practice his teachings, integrating them into your day-to-day life and making decisions through those teachings. And as you do so, you'll see the condition of your mind and your life gradually improve. So I'm going to stop here and see what questions you guys might have. We have microphones in the white bowl there in the middle of the room. We also have some up here as well. If you'd like to ask a question, just get a microphone, take it back to your seat. There's a gray button you can press. The lights will come on. And if you hold this up to your chin, we'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you online as well. If you speak here without a microphone, we won't be able to hear you online. And then you can keep these with you because you might have more than one question, or someone around you might have a question, and you can share the microphone. And if you're not using it, if you could turn it off, that'll be helpful so we don't get feedback through the speakers. And then for anybody who's online, you can put your questions into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom in the comment section, and I'll be able to see that. Or in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand, unmute your microphone, and ask any and all questions that you like. So is there anybody here online that would like to ask a question? No questions? Okay, let's see. I don't have any online either. Okay. Well, if you guys don't have any questions, what I'll do then is just end class by thanking all of you guys for joining. Thank you for your interest to understand the teachings of the Buddha. As you guys would like to learn more, you're more than welcome to do that. We have classes here regularly on Saturday, Sunday, and Wednesday. You guys are welcome to come here. You'll see these details on the bulletin board over there. You also see them on our website as well. And then there's also courses and retreats that you can take here. Everything's available for you at no cost. If you're interested in changing what you experience on a day-to-day basis, if you're tired of the broken relationships, if you're tired of the frustration, the anger, the hostility, and all the difficulties that you experience in life, there's help for you. And what I would suggest that you do is you start with this very first book. You can get it for free by downloading it from our website. You can take it and go print it. You can get printed versions here by reimbursing us for the printing cost, or you can order it on Amazon. If you start with this first book and then gradually work your way through it and taking the classes online or watching the videos and the podcast, since it's all recorded, you can gradually learn how to train your mind and get to this point where experiencing peace and joy. because it's no fun walking around with this anger and sadness and frustration. There's help for you, and it's all available for you at no cost, even personal guidance. If you'd like to sit down and talk about the personal challenges that you're having, you can schedule appointments with me, and it's all available at no cost, and I will help you to be able to see how to apply the teachings of the Buddha to your day-to-day life. So whatever you do today, have a very lovely and wonderful rest of your day. Perhaps I'll see you next time. Take care. Sawadee krap. Did you have a
Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.